PV2 Smurf here. I'm going to walk you through installing a spool in an 80-inch Toyota rear end. My application is an 88 Toyota pickup. And I'll walk you through how I go about doing it, how you guys go about doing it. There's another video on here, but it's a little hack jobbish, so I'm going to show you guys how to do it right. Your normal limited slip differential works like this. As one tire goes one way, the other tire goes the opposite, which allows you to curve, go around your corners, everything just right without sliding or wrecking or whatever. When we install this spool, both tires move in the same directions at all times. First thing you gotta do, jack the truck up and secure the back, because we have to slide these out. These axles out of the rear end in order to get to it. That's back under the truck. The next thing you're going to want to do is drain the oil, which is right here. Stick a catch bucket or something, don't drop it on the ground, come on now. Drain all the oil out of it so that way you won't have a big mess when you take this out. Yeah, rear end, third member, or it's front or rear, either one. Draw the oil and stuff drained out of it. Make sure you don't put it on the ground, guys. Be considerate. Go ahead and take your drive line loose, your flange loose right here, take that loose. Once you get this right here loose, go ahead and loosen the bolts up going around the third member. Go ahead and take them off. Make sure you put them in the right spot. That'll take just a second. Once you get that loose, go ahead over here. There's 4 bolts. There's 1, 2, one on the other side's 3, and then one right there is 4. Take that loose, that way you can slide your axle out. Do that to both sides. Then I would suggest taking the brake line loose here. Slide this side, slide this whole thing out. Do the other side, slide it out. Come in here and you should be able to tap this with a soft mallet hammer or something equivalent without putting a dent in it. You should be able to do that, and this right here should just come right out for you. Make sure you don't bang it on the ground because you don't want to put a hole in it. Do that. Get that done, I'll update you again. Bolts right here loose. You slide both sides of this axle out. One side, the other side. As soon as you get that done, just slide them out. You don't need them out far. Just, you know, that's it, probably like a foot. You probably don't need, or half foot. You probably don't need it that far. Slide them both out. Reach in there and wiggle on that thing, and once you do, bam, they'll pull it all the way out. Now my suggestion to keep bear out of line, as soon as you get that out, slide these back in here and hook the brake line back up. So if you hook your brake line back up, you won't have as much air in the system. However, I'm not going to do that for my application because on the other side, it broke right here. So I'm going to have to replace that end of that brake line. So I figured I don't have to bleed it anyway, I'll just leave it alone. So do that. Once you do that, that third member will pop right out. And as you can see, there's no grease on the ground, oil on the ground, I'm sorry, because we went ahead and drained it beforehand. Alright guys, once you get this rear end out, I'm going to set up on the table. I've already checked with a dial indicator. I checked my backlash on it, see what the backlash is as of now, so that way I know what to compare it to. I also have the factory specs, so I know exactly what to spec it back to whenever I redo my backlash. First and foremost, I've done is wipe this thing down real good, get it clean, make sure you mark these bearing caps, which side is which, because this side is only made to fit this side. It's not made to fit this side. And they have to go a specific way, so make sure you mark these caps, which I'm going to do. Make sure you mark these right here before you take these back. Another thing is the bearing on the inside here. The bearing number on my specific one, yours could be different, but mine's an 88 Toyota pickup, is right there. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's 17887. Now Rock Auto listed another one that was cheaper, but that's not the right one. As you can tell by this one, this also has the factory bearing still in it. But with installing the spool, one, you don't want to use these because if you press this off, press this on your brand new spool over here, as soon as you press that thing on there, and this bearing, you press this off, press it on the spool and put it on, as soon as that bearing right there gets hot or whatever, after being pressed off and pressed on, twice if you put it on the spool, as soon as it gets hot, it'll free spin on the inside and the bearing won't catch. Another thing is that spool puts a big load on it, regardless if you're just trail riding or especially if you're driving on the road. Don't skip out now and not buy new bearings. Suck it up, buy the new bearings. You're going to need them. Go ahead and buy them so that way you don't have to worry about any future trail rides being stuck on a trail because your bearing or whatever popped. You don't have to worry about splitting your brand new spool. You don't have to worry about breaking it in half, which can be done with bigger tires. So make sure you go ahead and replace this. So here's what we're going to do now. I'm going to mark these spots right here as to which one goes where. Then I'm going to take them off. And the way I'm going to separate is I'm going to get me a piece of cardboard, which will be off the box that the original spool come in. And I'm just going to take my bearing caps, cut the side of this box off, and I'm just take my bearing caps and I'm going to push them in here. I'm going to mark on with a marker left and right and the drive shaft, so that way I know which one's what. The front of it looks very different, top and bottom wise, so I'll be able to tell what went where. Put these in here and you won't get them mixed up. So let's do that. Wipe it off clean. As a recap, wipe it off clean, order new bearings. You can order them off Rock Auto, like 24 something a piece, but then you got to pay for the shipping, so I'll get it's like $54. You order them off there if you like. Get them at the parts store. Either which way, get the bearings. You're going to have a press. Mark these caps because each size specific. They only go on one way. Take pictures as well as mark them. Clean this thing off. Take all these loose and don't lose any of the parts to it, okay guys? As you can see, I got this thing removed. When it come out of there, this side, when in that side, the pinion is on the bottom. So what I done was just like I said, box, and I cut it. Left, right, top and bottom. Cut a hole in this box right here to slide this through. Cut me another little hole right here and just put these bolts in, so that way I won't lose them. I didn't do any adjustments to these right here because these actually adjust. Take this right here loose and you can actually adjust these. This will set your pinion left or right. So I didn't adjust them at all. You won't, if you're running a spool like I am, then you won't technically be reusing, these bearings right here. So do as you want. I'm going to keep my spider gears just in case in the future I decide I want to say the spool breaks, I can put it back in there. So do that, guys. Go ahead and finish disassembling this. Make sure you keep all your tabs. And from what I read online, when it comes back to retorquing it, they're all at 71 foot-pounds. All of them and these bearing caps are all 71 foot-pounds. So make sure you torque them back. Alright guys, another note to make sure you make for yourself is these have safety things, I forgot what they're called, that go over these right here that keep these bolts from turning inside this, which will keep failure and keep you from pulling your ring gear out. So what you got to do is you got to get down in between them, you got to pull them back in order to get the socket over it to take it off. Now my method, and you can do it any way you like because these are not much as far as how much pressure's on them. I take this right here and I shoved it down in here just like this, and I just barely pull back on it, and that's just a screwdriver. And it gets just enough gap I can get. It's a 17 millimeter on these to take this off. Alright, as you guys can see, I've removed every one of these bolts, put all these like this, just so I keep up with them. Now this is, pick this up, this don't want to come off. What I'm going to do is use a soft mallet hammer. I have a dead blow hammer, it's not very big. And I'll tap on this right here and it should pop off. Now do not beat on this with a metal hammer, because you don't want any dents in this. You sure as shit don't want to chip one of these teeth right here off and mess up your pinion. So get something and tap on this right here and it should come off. The best it looks is every bit of this should just slide off right off top of this carrier, because we're not reusing any of this. Should slide right off this, then we'll be able to move on to the spool. And guys, just like I had figured, tap on that dead blow a little bit like this, turn it around, tap it again, turn it around, tap it again, just keep doing that, and then bam, falls right off there. There's your ring gear. There's the part we will not be reusing, which are the spider gears and the carrier. And the bearings, won't be using that. All we need is this. Alright guys, when you got the ring gear and stuff done, I just wiped the inside of this right here off. And I just took and you can look and see, if you want to rewind the video you can. Spider gears were pointing this way and the bolts went in this side. So, spider gear pointing this way, bolts on this side. The bigger part of the spool will go where the spider gears used to be. See how it's open, there's nothing in here? That'll go on this side. Once I get the new bearings pressed on, which I plan on doing tomorrow, once I get these bearings pressed on, it'll be ready to set back inside of the differential. Now put these bolts on here. I just put them on here like this, and I cross pattern snugged them down, because you don't want to take an air gun like this and put it on here and zip that down and then zip that one down and then that one, because what happens is this is going to pull together a lot more than over here. It's not even been tightened yet. So what happens is you're going to end up stripping one of these. So here's what you do. Just go real slow and go cross pattern there to there, there to there, there to there, and just keep going around the whole thing until you get it all snugged down. And I done it by hand. Now if you want to do it with an impact gun, that's your call. I wouldn't advise it, but it's your call. Do as you wish. After you get all those down, they're all torqued down, then I always go, after I cross patterned every one of these, I took and went back, went boom, 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 and bumped it with my electric impact. Real easy though. I didn't bum, 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 bum. I just bum, 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 bum. All the way around to make sure they're good. Now, onto the torquing part. These are to be torqued at 71 foot-pounds. So we'll go in here, I'll get a torque wrench, I'll lay this thing down, probably in between this pallet gap right here, but you can put it in a vise if you have one. Lay it down there. I'll torque these down 71 foot-pounds, and I'll cross it. One here, one here, one here, one here. Yada, 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 yada. I'll keep doing that until I get it all at 71 foot-pounds. Once you do that, then I'm going to bend these caps right here back. These locking caps. Don't worry about this coming loose. Now, I've seen on a lot of installs, especially with rear ends, people using Loctite. Now, I don't know how good Loctite will work, unlike these tabs right here inside this. I'm not 100%. That's not the way I'm doing my application. If you want to do it that way, that's more than fine, I guess. It's your rig, your call. If you want to take these off and use Loctite on these bolts and not reuse these, hey, that's your call. Your rig, your call, I always say. So I'm going to do mine this way. So I'm going to torque all these down. First, I'm probably going to do 40 on each one of them. And then I'll go back and do 71. So that way I know this thing seats good. Then we'll go from there. Now that you got your bearings pressed on, your spool, all this is torqued down on the ring gear, tabs bent back the way they should, or you're Loctite, either way you're doing it. Once you get your bearings pressed on, which word to the wise, mine's a 4-cylinder. It was 17887 was the bearing number. I couldn't find it. They didn't actually, parts store didn't actually have it. Luckily I found a website that had the bearing that would work with it. The race is different, so make sure you get the correct race, because they didn't have the race at that location to go to another one to get the race. The bearing number for my install being a 4-cylinder, I'm pretty sure all the 4-cylinder 22R and 22REs are the same, is LM603049, and that's just the bearing. The race cap that goes on this, I think the only difference, it's 603014. Don't quote me on that. Okay, after we get all that done, I'm going to go ahead, while I got all this stuff out so I can blow it out and not get stuff in here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this, put this on my grinder and just barely go up against this, clean this mating surface off really good on this and on the actual axle housing itself, so that way I know I'll get a good seal, because who wants to chase down leaky ass seals and have to pull all this back apart and do it again. So take your time and do it right. Go around this, get it clean, then I'll take a air hose and I'll and blow all that stuff out, and then I'll do the same thing for the actual housing itself, And then after that, we'll go on with putting the spool in place and setting the backlash on it. Take it around through there, see how clean that is. That way I know I'm going to get a really good seal. Some of my studs, as you can tell, they actually threaded out instead of the bolt coming off. Which will be okay, because I'll make sure I torque it back down where it's supposed to be. That good and clean just like that. Do your third member like I showed you just like that. Next step will be to install your pinion inside your third member. Got the main caps for the bearing snug down. And as you can see, I'm sitting on about 6 thousandths. Now Toyota factory specs say 2 thousandths to 5 thousandths. Everywhere I read says 8 to 10, or I think it's 6 to 10 thousandths. I'm not really thinking that 6 thousandths really is too much. If factory is 2 to 5 on the backlash, then should be just right at it, just enough to make both aftermarket and factory pretty happy. So I think I'll call that good. Now we'll take this off here, torque down these carrier differential carrier bearing caps, 70 foot-pounds. Once I do that, I'm going to put my silicone, not on this surface, but on the rear end, set it back into place, tighten it down, then we'll be able to slide the axles in. You do have to adjust your backlash. Here's what you can do. This is a 12 millimeter. Take that off there, it'll slide out, it'll allow you to move this. This will, if you tighten this, push it this way. Same on the other side. If you take that loose, it'll push it that way, and you can set your backlash with that. However, I advise you to watch about doing that, because the more you push this one, the farther away from the pinion it's going to get. After you take that loose, all you do is turn the outside of this cage right here. In order to actually turn this, one method that I've found is you can take this, come right off my grinder, stick this thing right in here just like this, and turn it. When you do that, that'll adjust it, and you can push it either which way you want to do it. So keep that in mind, guys. Everything is set correctly. I end up actually adjusting it so that way I could get 8 thousandths, which is 0.008 on my dial indicator. So that way it'll kind of suffice both. What I read online said between 8 and 10 thousandths. So I got that. I went ahead and silicone. I'm using high heat. It don't really matter. I guess I would. When I took it off, I used gray silicone. Don't really matter. I'm using high heat for this application because originally forgot it this morning when I went to get the bearings pressed. So I just went down the road and picked that up. So what we're gonna do is make sure your axles are pulled out plenty. There's 2 metal cages inside on each side of that, which helps guide those axles into place. Make sure those are pushed back to that side, and the one is pushed back to this side. Make sure they're in place like it's supposed to be. Once they are, I'm going to silicone around that, and then I'm just going to set this third member up in there, and then I'm going to snug everything down. You get all that on there, put all those bolts in there. Like I said, make sure the plate that's here on the other side are pushed back, because it's what helps guide the axles in place or inside the housing. After you do that, put them on there just like that. I don't know the exact torque specs. I always just tighten them up by hand, and the reason why is because I think they were originally torqued once before, whenever I did I can't remember what I was changing the U-joints. They were torqued before and it leaked a little bit, and I went to take it off to reseal it and it broke, so therefore I just hand tied them. Keep a good check on them. Make sure they're tight though. After I do that, my next step is going to be to fill it back full of oil, and here's why. If I go ahead and fill this thing, and you guys fill this thing full of oil, you notice there's a leak in the mating surface. You can take it back off real quick, put it back on. Seal it again and put it back on. If you take that thing and just go ahead and bolt everything up, then put oil in it, see it's leaking, have to do the whole process over again of taking the axles out, the brake lines loose, re-bleeding the brakes again. So save yourself some time. Go ahead and fill this thing full of oil, wait 10 minutes, make sure it's not leaking, then process from there. Make sure that your drain plug down here is tight, because remember we took it loose. Make sure it's tight. After that's good and your oil is in there, then just wait. It's been about, I don't know, 15 minutes or something. Absolutely no leak at all. Even turned the pinion a couple trips to make sure that if it's swashed around a little bit, it's not going to leak. So turn the pinion. Got that all good. There's absolutely no leaks. The part you see right there is where there was oil on it when I originally took it out. I wiped it off so it's good and clean. So besides that, guys, absolutely no leaks, which is exactly what you want. Now to move on to sliding the axles there and there back in the housing. Now I broke my brake line, so I'm going to replace that. Then I'm going to slide the axles in. On the four-wheel drive, something else I forgot to mention before is this piece that you see that is right there, hanging off there, is a cotter pin, and that goes to your emergency brake. If you have one, you have to remove that and slide that axle out. So replace this brake line, we'll slide these back in and tighten them down. Once you get everything on there, wheels, I torqued my lug nuts to 110 foot-pounds. This is a 4-cylinder. Those are only 31 1050 by 15 tires though. So I guess consult online for torque specs on your tires. Got everything in there buttoned up. Still no leaks, which is a plus. The drive line in there. We got those bolts torqued to, I can't remember. But anyway, I got those torqued down. Got the brake lines in there and connected. But all the brakes all the way around. Okay, now I got everything all done. Let's go in here and show you how it works. Showed you before. Spin this tire and the other one to go the other way. So they both move in the same direction now. Backing up, going forward. You guys just follow steps and do the same thing. Hope to see you out on the trail. Truck up, put it in first gear, put it in low. As you can see, both tires moving the same direction. That, my friends, is how you properly install a spool for an 8-inch Toyota 4-cylinder. 86 to a 94, I believe, are all the same.